I'm here with Nick Dixon, head of Falmouth University's Launchpad program. We're going to dive into this amazing opportunity with Launchpad's entrepreneurial incubator program that covers technology but also has a real focus on video games. Nick is the head of the Launchpad program and responsible for overseeing its delivery. Nick is a games industry veteran with over 15 years of experience in game design, creative direction and pitching. Nick's published 11 games across 12 platforms and has written the screenplay for 4 of those titles. Nick has created successful concepts, original IP and high-profile franchise, including Star Wars, Stargate and Doctor Who. He's worked with Universal, MGM and Warner Brothers, amongst others. And these concepts have helped to generate over 30 million of development business for the studios that he's worked for. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, Nick, and welcome to the Business of Indie Games 2018.
Hey, very good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to drive straight in, if I may. Can you tell us a little bit about Falmouth University, the background, and about how the Launchpad came about and what the plan is for the future?
Sure. I mean, Falmouth University is one of the top creative arts universities in the UK, naturally situated in one of the most beautiful counties in the UK, and is well renowned for developing huge creative talent. It has a fabulous games academy and School of Film and Television and business school and others that all combine to, I think, create a complete package for the creative industries in the UK. So it's a great home for the Launchpad program and was founded, in fact, by the Vice Chancellor here. So it is high on the agenda for what Falmouth University hopes to achieve with its strategy going forward about real placements and real jobs and getting a lot of the real workplace environment into the courses that they offer here.
It sounds like it's not just a theoretical course. There's actually placements and real industry experience being delivered as well. Is that right?
Yeah, Launchpad is very much a real course. I mean, we actually run it as a real studio. It has a very real business mentality to it. And of course, we align those who apply for the program as postgraduates. They align with real companies with real challenges that they have to provide solutions for, which they will form a company around. So when they've completed, they will incorporate a company around the solution that they provide, be it games, gamification, or any other form of technology, digital technology that we create. So it already has a very real focus. It may be a master's program, and so there is a healthy academic underpinning to the field of entrepreneurialism on which the master's is based. But it's about building real businesses to meet market demand. And so it couldn't get any more real. At the end of it, they will be directors, founding directors of high growth, high value companies, some of them digital games companies. So yeah, in terms of reality, in a period of 12 months, they have to go from not knowing each other through the program and what the program offers them to investable businesses introduced to our investment partners. So yeah, it doesn't get any more real than that.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I want to sign up. You just sold me there.
Applications are now open. You're more than welcome to apply.
Thank you. Fabulous. Just a side question, what happens to the intellectual property that's created? Is that owned by the company that's built around the...
Yeah, it vests with the university to begin with, because we fundamentally invest as the first investor for the teams, really. We put about £250,000 investment into each company that we bring through the program. There's about 77,000 euros per person. And so we hold on to the IP until the company is incorporated, and then we vest the IP in the incorporated company. So it doesn't sit with any individual person, it sits within the company itself. And I think that's very important. But we freely hand that over. That only remains with us if the company doesn't incorporate, and the money that we've therefore invested in the team, we still retain the value in that. But no, it goes into the company. What we do is we have a stakeholding within each company that we push out. eventually, when the companies achieve the valuation that they need, and they sell, or they buy us out or whatever, that then gets funded back into the program. So beyond our European funding period for the program, we will eventually evergreen, and the program will self-propagate from that point onwards.
Oh, that's just an amazing idea. It's like you're setting up a whole abundant ecosystem for building video games and technology going forward.
Absolutely, video games needs it. You know, we know from the UK Business Angels Association that only 6% of angels in the UK fund video games. 6% out of the total investment, and yet we all know the massive value that the video games market has. It's it's in terms of a growth market, it is the fastest growing market. It's fast past film and television and music. So we should be increasing the amount that we invest into our video games companies and those early startup video games companies, which I think is even more important, is to give such amazing talent and graduate talent that comes through our doors. We should be investing that money in, but because they don't understand how to appreciate the risks involved and how to depreciate the risks involved, how do you de-risk a game studio, then they don't put the amount of money in that we needed. So what we do is we go out to industry partners, we identify the demand that they're looking for in games that tend to be publishers, platform holders, engine holders, so Amazon, BBC Worldwide, Sony Interactive Entertainment, and other publishers, and we get challenges from them. We understand the market demand. So we're de-risking from the point of view that there is already demand being identified. We then go out to the market to look for graduates and industry experienced people who want to run their own business. We bring them together into a team to answer that challenge. So we're already creating more investable opportunity in games, but that is what's needed. What we need is to provide platforms by which investors are better educated about how they invest in video games and how they de-risk their investment. I mean, ultimately, if a game studio pays back its investment, it will typically pay back much faster than your average investment within the digital sector, which they're typically looking for 6 or more years to pay back their investment. If a games company hits its targets, it can pay back its investment in 6 months to a year. That's how we have to educate. So we see that as being our job, whilst we're also building a sustaining, as you said, a sustainable tech cluster here in Cornwall.
And to produce results within 6 months to a year, that's very interesting. Is it primarily mobile games that you're focusing on then?
No, and I've kind of shied away from mobile simply because unless you've got a partner to go to mobile with you, it is a thoroughly saturated marketplace. You know, you're entering into a market where hundreds, if not thousands, of titles are released on a weekly basis. So the only way you're going to get notoriety within the mobile market is by having a partner that can help get you onto the store page the day you release. And you've got to be front and center on the store page. You can't be buried 16 pages in alphabetical order deep in, because no one is ever going to find you. So for mobile, if we did that, we'd have to have a partner that get you on the page right from the get-go, or you'd have to have an IP to follow alongside. So, you know, if you're working with I've got a friend who's working with Games Workshop. If you're working with Games Workshop and they're one of their popular brands, well, they've got a ready-made market out there right from the get-go. So that's the only point at which I would do it. No, we still typically stick with PC and console because we understand how those markets operate, and actually it's a lot easier, not completely easy, but a lot easier to get notoriety right from the get-go.
Thank you. And how long does the course run then? What's the sort of time to market?
So we operate in 2 phases. We have an incubation year where we recruit up to 80 graduates into 20 teams of 4 on average, typically. And each team would start on a semester start September. Typically, we've got 1 cohort coming in January as part of our funded period, but we bring them all in for 1 year where they undergo the master's program, which I should add, we do not charge a fee for the masters. So if they do the masters, the fee is underwritten by the program. They come onto us for a year, we pay them £16,000 tax-free individually, as a stipend to help support their cost of living. And they then spend that year, first of all, assessing the 3 challenges which we give them, working out which they think is the best market demand and best fit for their passion and skills. They then inform that partner and take that forward to build a minimum viable prototype over the remaining period, typically around 9 or 10 months, to build up that investability that they need to demonstrate. So in amongst that, the Masters is broken down into 3 sections. The first part is about market assessment and due diligence. The second part is around project planning and building a project team and a viable project plan. And then the final part is about building an investment plan and business plan. And from about month 6 onwards, we introduce you to our investment network so they can see you develop. They can see your talent, your team develop, which is always part of the investment equation. It's not just about the idea and the product. It's also about the team. So that incubation period is a year. They hopefully pass their masters, they incorporate their company, they gain their investment, and then they spend a further year in acceleration, which is a really critical period. How do you grow your company? How do you reach market? How do you spend your investment? How do you hire staff? I'd argue those are probably the more dangerous parts of the development cycle. How do you build your full product ready to go to market? So we spend another year with them. They are still within the building with us. So that has the advantage of the incubating teams that come in after them get to see accelerating companies. They get a vision on what they could look like in a year's time. But also they educate each other. We're building a community where the accelerating companies are educating the incubating companies, which are in turn educating the accelerating companies. So it's a great ecosystem that we have within the building. And then after that, they then go out into the marketplace and call their find offices, and we continue to support them beyond that as part of our shareholding responsibilities.
And I suppose that as the investors are introduced so early, that they get the opportunity to get to know the team as they grow, as you said, but also to impart vital information about what the investor needs from a team.
Yeah, that's right. We do introduce the cohort to a very large range of mentors and coaches all the way through. Last year I had Imre Yele come down from Bossa Studios. He's a friend of mine. Of course, they started in a very similar fashion, small team, you know, producing work for hire titles, and then they went to original content with Surgeon Simulator, and now they've grown to 150 people. That is a very successful, high growth, high value company that Enrique, Roberta and Imre have kind of put together, and our teams need to kind of mirror that kind of success. So when Imre comes down, he can impart very, very clear knowledge about what a game studio needs to build, what typical expected problems are they going to face, how do they deal with that. And yeah, investors are a good part of that process. They're going to tell you right out the gate, is your project, you know, worth investing in? What do you need to do to change your story about how you're introducing your product and your team to get it into a more investable state? But clearly, as an early deal flow opportunity for the investor, seeing that talent develop is going to answer the equation of, should I take some risk and plow 150, 250, 300, 500,000 pounds into this team? So it's a good strategy for us to building that investment network, and they really love getting that early deal flow opportunity, because they get the ability to influence the product, which of course in typical investment they don't get to do. They only get to do it at the point where the team is ready to receive investment. Sometimes that's too late.
Yeah, or on other occasions, many would say, thank God that they don't get involved too.
Well, that's the other half of it, isn't it? It gives us the chance to align the teams with the right investor. Investors not just about money, it's about what experience they bring to your team and your company, that they can actually add value. An investor needs to add value, not just add cash. So that's the other side of it. The team equally get to assess, who am I working with? Do I want this person to invest? They don't. I hate Dragon's Den. You don't just want a dragon. You know, you don't just want Smaug. You know, you want the dragon from Never Ending Story. It's going to give you a lift to a cool landscape. You know, that's kind of what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the nerdiest analogy I've ever given, but there we go.
I think it's very appropriate for our industry, actually. Have you had some successes that have been through the cycle already?
Yeah, we have, both in games and not in games. But it's a tough market, and realism always creeps in some point. So I've had a great team come through the program that does data analytics for the games industry, a company called Hertzian. What they do is they use natural language processing to analyze sentiment of players as they're giving feedback to the company, so they can tell Ubisoft, who is one of their clients, of the several million players who are playing the game, exactly what they think at a moment's notice. It's very good for those lifespan games where they need to adjust content on the fly and make small iterations. They've been very successful, and they're now 3 years incorporated, or close to 3 years incorporated. And this year I've got a really cool games team. One of two, one which I can talk about, the other one which I can't because they're in the middle of pitching to an IP at the moment, so I can't really talk about that. But they've got a really cool IP they're working with. But I've got one team who have created a really, really great title called Get Packing, which is a very simple sell. It's a physics comedy game about fumbling with furniture. Essentially, it's a cooperative physics comedy game. So I suppose anybody familiar with Overcooked and Human Fall Flat or Gang Beasts would not be a stranger to it. But essentially, play removal men who are having to remove furniture from a house and get it into a van. But of course, because it's klutzy physics klutzy controls, they do not make it easy for you to do it without breaking anything. So it's about trying to do it in a klutzy way without breaking the least amount of stuff. And they've had great interest in the publishing community. They're currently in discussion with a number of publishers at the moment, and I think they will secure one of those publishing deals. So, we do stuff with IP, and I think that's really important. That IP adds immediate market traction and value to what you're doing. So that has great value. But also, we've got teams we've brought together because they bring the right skills together, and working with a publisher as a partner, they can answer a market gap. And I think there is a great market gap out at the moment for that kind of title. So that's really exciting. And I think we'll see them secure several £100,000 worth of publishing funding or investor funding to take that to market.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. It sounds like a very fun mass market kind of title.
Yeah, it does. And actually, I've seen people playing it at various trade shows. It's one of those games where you get it right away, people come up and play it, and then they come back and play it, and then they come back and play it. So I wish I'd created that in my time. But what we do here is I think it's something else to open the door for somebody else to come in and have a shot at the career that we've enjoyed. And let's face it, there's a lot of people attending universities in their hundreds every year coming out to do games. Are the jobs really there in the sector for them to take as an employee? I would argue not. I would argue that those jobs are rare, and ultimately you're competing against people who have significant experience. I think our industry has changed, and I would say the majority of our industry is now self-employed. And why not? That's where it started. If we're talking about history works in cycles, our history started self-employed in the bedroom, coding 8-bit titles. That's where people started. Well, maybe we've gone full circle. Maybe we're coming back to that. So if that's the majority, we can provide the platform for how that majority gains their career, and they will become the publishers of the future. They'll become the leading developers of the future. The UK has always been at the forefront of that. So, we will help open the door for them and help them become the leading game developers of the future.
Yeah, thank you. I remember starting, I ran Asylum Entertainment in the UK. And I only had one project, to start with. So I was loath to take on everybody as PAYE. So we started out, as a group of freelancers. We only had the one deal, but we were able to establish the studio from there, fortunately. But certainly it has changed and come full circle again, as you said.
There's a lot of luck involved, isn't there, in how you get into the industry, and all of us can recount a lucky story of how we got our break in. I think what we try and do is give them that luck, is to give them that break. What they then do with it is up to them. There's only a certain amount we can do. It's down to the individual and the team together as to how they pull out the bag. But we give them that little bit of luck, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you give them an incredible advantage, hence the name Launchpad, because it really is everything they need to get started.
It's not the most original name. There are lots of kind of other launch pads out there, but you know what? It doesn't matter. You know, we know ourselves from games. What you call yourself in the beginning, no one cares if they don't know who you are. By the time they know who you are, they don't care what you're called. You know, Bungie still makes no sense as a name. I'm sure it makes sense to them, but it doesn't really matter because everybody knows who Bungie are. So Launchpad will do for now. And when we've got enough in our portfolio, I don't suppose it will matter. But we do what we say on our tin.
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, that's so much interesting stuff there. What's the sort of I wanted to touch actually on the natural language programming. So you're doing some quite interesting AI stuff there,
Yeah.
working with Ubisoft. Um, Outside of the game space, that's a very clever and very interesting area of the market, which obviously will be growing.
Yeah.
That's the way that Ubisoft could find out what those players actually really thought, because there are so many of them.
Yeah, it's impossible, isn't it, for you as a developer to reach out and speak with enough of your audience to know what they want, and how they want to change it. And we're rapidly getting to the point where content is changed on a month by month basis to increase its lifespan. So yeah, you really do need to get that rapid feedback. So it is very useful. But I think this just goes to prove actually how games technology can also apply to other sectors, and that our engines and our processes and our development tools are based around speed of innovation, because largely we have to produce an awful lot of content in a very short space of time. I sometimes look at the games and I think if that was a movie and that was the special effects budget for a movie, you'd still be vastly understaffed by comparison to what Marvel or others would actually put into their special effects CG budget. And yet you still have to deliver the same. We were able to do that because our tools and technology are built around automating that process and allowing you with a few people to use their talent to build stuff really, really quickly, which in some ways means we're in a golden period for development because we've got these fantastic tools at our disposal. You know, the days of individual developers having to have their own tech team to produce the tools are kind of done really, unless you're a big publisher and you really need that engine to do you know, to add value to your publishing studio. But I think that technology allows games skilled individuals and developers to apply their skills to other markets that have great value: education, healthcare, you know, all kinds of sectors can benefit from the creative bridge, as our Vice Chancellor likes to call it, that creative bridge which games offer. The ability to develop user interface and control systems are our way of making less complex mechanic situations. So if people want to engage with modern technology, which is often overly complicated, my own heating system at home, frankly, it'd have to be the late Stephen Hawking to even work out how it works. A good game developer could tell you how to control that and how to make that work. So I think we have skills and technology that apply to many other markets, and that is the other thing that we do. So our non-games teams work on those markets. AI, data, you know, these are really powerful tools. I was having a discussion with someone the other day actually. I said, you know, when we first saw Left 4 Dead, I love Left 4 Dead, but you know, the director was a great sales tool, but it wasn't really directing the game in the way that you know said. It was doing appearing to do something very complex, very simply, and that is always the way we should do things. But we are at the point now where actually we can work on true adaptive difficulty mechanisms and adapting to player style, because we can read and interpret all this data that the player is producing. So I think that's very, very exciting. Yes, Ubisoft and companies like that, that is gold dust to them, absolute gold dust.
Yeah, I mean, it extends the, you know, the by you know, as you touched on, delivering content, you know, in real time, was live operations, as the new phrase is.
Mhm.
It increases the revenue per user by I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's by a really
Massive.
full revenue percentage.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just buy the game, once.
It's especially because territories have different, if you go to China and you want to put your game in China, that is a completely different market. Actually, conversely, an almost entirely mobile-based market. And I'd say in some aspects, streaming technology and things like that, they're way ahead of us, way ahead of the West in terms of streaming technology. And of course, the amount of investment someone like Tencent puts in or Alibaba puts in is huge by comparison to UK investment firms. But if you want to get your thing into the Chinese marketplace, you better know how that marketplace works. You better know how that culture works, because they don't think in the way that your typical audience in the West does. That's no bad thing, but you need to know how they work and what they're into and how they like it. I was sitting on a bus in Hong Kong, and I had an old lady playing Pokemon Go on 3 different phones. You got to know how the audience is going to work and react.
And if I can do a shameless plug, we have an interview from Hamoud too, specifically on that topic of breaking into China and what you need to know.
Yeah, well worth watching that one, because that market is so huge. If you can get into that market, it's far bigger than many of the markets we tap into here in the West. But yeah, you need to understand it. So that's certainly a session worth watching.
And thank you. And is that a module? Do you cover that kind of thing within the?
Yeah, we have access to, if it's appropriate. We've been out in Hong Kong recently, promoting the program out in Hong Kong for different reasons, and we've thought for a long while about globalizing the program, because it is a program you can take anywhere where there is market demand. But yes, we have access to experts in Chinese market development and Asian market development who can sit down and talk to a team and talk them through. I mean, ultimately, we work in a very agile way, as all creative sectors should, and we bring in the people they need when they need them. So we work very much on an ad hoc basis in that respect.
It must be quite a competitive environment if there are 20 teams of 4. What's the percentage focus on video games as opposed to other technology?
Yeah, and so I'm aiming for around 5 out of the 20 teams each year will be games focused, which feels about right. And then the other areas, they're all software. We're entirely software based. And some of those will be separated down into, so I may do more than 5 teams, but I might do teams that are dedicated to tools and technology, and advancing particular tools. So yeah, it does vary wildly. Typically, we will look for 3 broad categories of candidate. We look for digital creatives, that includes designers, technical designers, animators and artists, 3D, 2D. We look for business development people who can lead and run teams and have an entrepreneurial mindset. And we look for programmers of all shapes and sizes. We have a very, very open program. We have a high proportion of women on the program, and a great ethnic diversity. And we welcome many applications from Europeans. So whatever Britain votes, which we, in idiotic manners we don't agree with particularly, we welcome many, many different nationalities onto the program.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's always been that way in the games business. It's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You see, you talked a little bit about the entrepreneur and the programmer. What does the ideal applicant look like? What sorts of people, how do you put together a team?
That's a very interesting point. Well, first of all, we use a funky online game program developed by a company called Arctic Shores, and we get every applicant to play it, and it measures a number of different characteristics against which we have a roughly perfect profile. It's not important that everybody is perfect to that profile, but it enables us to look at them and see how they will match against others. But fundamentally, we look for resilience, because frankly, if you want to be in the creative sector, as you know yourself, Simon, you better be resilient. You are going to get knocked down. You're going to have to get back up again, and that's going to happen many times. So we look for resilience, we look for creative thinking, we look for inclusivity, and we look for openness. We look for people who are good at working within a team, bring strong individual characteristics and strong skills so that they can own their part of the team. But we look for team players who think differently and think creatively. You know, you've got a passion to run your own company, you've got really, really creative ideas, and you bring good skills to the table, then you can find a home with us. But typically, we look for those kinds of people. That's how we measure them. We also interview every single person that comes into the program. We put them through a fairly rough interview process. We test them quite hard, and we kind of poke them quite hard. And then we probably will do a skills test of some kind, so portfolio, or a game design test, or a programming test. And then we will make sure you align with one of the many challenges we might have on the table, ready for them to look at and to provide a solution for. But there's a lot of creativity in the solution. We don't do any work for hire at all, so that they have to come up creatively with a solution to the challenge that's being presented.
What kind of challenges are there? Do you set them?
All kinds. So publishers may provide a particular gap they're looking for in terms of games content, a particular trend, and advances in that trend. It could be that, you know, we're looking to do something for Sony's PSVR, which is very popular for them, and I'd argue is probably one of the winning VR kits out there at the moment in a marketplace which is really difficult to get market traction. But I think they've got a great device, and they've got a homogenized platform, which is really nice. We might look at a particular IP. So does this IP have representation in the way that it should have for a platform, and how do we do that? So we have a range of different challenges, but typically for the games, it'll either be providing something for a trend in a genre that we haven't really seen yet, or we haven't seen filled in the way it should be, or we'll be looking to answer for a particular platform or piece of technology for that platform, or we will look to work with a particular IP and present a particular brand in the way that it needs to be represented. That's for games. For games technology, it'll be advancing the technology and tools offered. So it might be working with someone like Amazon to develop tools for their platform and make tools accessible to the marketplace for other developers to use. We've got one company called Codices who are working with streamers to present new streaming technology. So what it enables the streamer to do is enables them to, via a very simple quiz technology kit, to engage with hundreds of thousands of their audience in live time. So their audience can answer questions and can come back, rather like a great big hundreds of thousands at your fingertips streaming version of HQ Trivia. And then they'll allow developers to have access to that kit to develop their own solutions. But that's going to be available for Twitch shortly. So if there are any streamers out there, you should get in touch with a company called Codices, and they'll supply you with that gear. So there's all kinds of different challenges that we have.
Yeah, well, it sounds really amazing. When you're putting these teams together, do you have to, like ideally 4-person teams, do you consider the balance? When we first started a game studio, we had 2 coders, an artist, and I did the bridge between the tech speak and the customer speak, you know, and between the creative and the commercial. Do you look for different talents to put together to get that balance?
Yeah, we do. There's something about a team of 4 that seems to work. And there's some research that's gone into that seems to work. I mean, it's fairly obvious. If you've got a team of 1, or a team of 2, you're going to struggle. I know Mike did it with Thomas, but you know, that was early doors. And I think even now indie games are becoming suddenly more complex. And I think your ability to do a simple 2D game with squares and rectangles, I think you struggle to make, you know, and in part you'll help because engines are allowing you to do just that much more. But typically 4 is good because, yeah, you can get a couple of programmers, an artist and an animator, and you can share some of the design responsibility around. And I think that's good. I've got potentially a team of 6 coming in that I've been looking at and working with. So I will vary it up. I'll very rarely vary it down. Because there's a point where you just can't deliver, and then also I'm paying outsourcing simply so you can deliver your content. But I have, you know, I've got a team working with a particular IP. I have paid the equivalent for 12 outsourcers for them to come and get some of that essential art and assets outsourced, because that's the realistic way their studio is going to run. So I will do that. We'll vary it as we go, but typically always a team of 4, typically.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I mean, the outsourcing, you know, that's a real genuine negotiation that you'd have to do in the real world.
It is. It is.
Why not have it as part of the curriculum? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I mean, we also have paid students in their second and third year, to come and work with some of these companies. So we're not taking the mick because they are getting paid, but at the same time, they're getting very real experience. And there's some great talent. There's some great talent in the students. Students here coming out of the Games Academy, I would hire into a studio in a heartbeat, which is always a great indication, isn't it? If you know, and I think is a sea change in our education, because I think for years you get a graduate on and you'd really have to work with them to make them fit for purpose for the studio. I think now we're seeing graduates who, because they're putting them into working teams where they have to produce content, there is no better education than to produce content. If you want to learn how to make a game, make a game. It's the only way you're really going to learn how to do it, right?
So what's the longer term picture for the Launchpad program?
Well, what you're seeing behind me is where we occupy at the moment. And there's right next door is a replica building to this going up. So I don't know if you can see, but in the background it goes all the way down. We're going to have the building going up, same building as this beautiful spot, and we'll have 18 incubation on the top floor, and then 18 acceleration on the lower ground floor. Beautiful views over the whole of Cornwall, we get that building goes up at the end of summer ready for our next cohort. We will then be funded until the end of 2019, and at that point we will be gaining an additional funding to run the program until our Evergreen fund begins to pay into the program. But the idea is that we'll run in perpetuity from that point onwards and grow the program out, not only in Cornwall, but we'll be looking to push it out into other areas of the UK and globally, because it is built and tailor-built to answer demand. Now in Cornwall, that is about growing the county economically. We suffer because we have some non-growth industries down here, fantastic industries that are very big industries for us, but tourism is a non-growth industry because it's seasonal and we keep the seasonal wage at a low level. So the best way to do that is to push out high growth, high value companies, and games and digital tech companies are great at doing that. The other advantage, of course, is we're now in a position where you can put a digital company out there and you can be selling things on a digital store faster than you can walk to the corner shop. And you don't have to be in Shoreditch, and you don't have to be in Manchester to do that. You don't have to be in Birmingham to do that. And actually, an office cost will cost you a lot less down here than it will in the heart of London, and yet you'll be 5 minutes from the beach. So, in a proper sandy beach. So I think there's good reasons to be here and building companies and having this lifestyle that is amazing. But at the same time, it's an answer to the problems that we face here in Cornwall, which is about building a high growth sector that is paying their employees a good salary that they then are spending in the economy. So that's really why we're here, and that's what the future looks like for us. So I'm going to push out 32 such companies minimum over the next year and a half, and then beyond that, steady state of 20 companies each year. So for those people who are wanting to get into games and game sector, I think Cornwall's the place to be.
Oh, there's such a wonderful opportunity. That's a real material opportunity.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about applying. What are their options for the applicants? Like, can teams apply, or do you like to put the teams together yourself?
If they want to come together as a team, I will look at that. We'll interview them individually. They have to apply individually, but if they make note of they want to be a team, I need to see why. I need to make sure that team works. Lots of teams think they work, and then they get put under the crush of pressure, and all of a sudden a team which appears strong will crack in a heartbeat. So we will do our best to make sure that team is strong and capable of doing the work. I think also a lot of people come feeling that they have the right skills, and then those skills are tested, and they find that there's a lot they have to learn, and we will assess that and assess what they have to learn. That's all part of our applications process. To apply, it's very simple. falmouth.launchpad.co.uk, you go onto the site, you hit the apply now button, we'll take you through a form, submit CV and portfolio, and then we'll go forward from there. They get academically assessed, but I brought in 2 into the program, one of whom is in the games team. He's in his mid-30s, never done an undergraduate degree. He's about to graduate this Friday with a full master's, because I brought him in because of his experiential learning. So if you've never studied a degree before, but you feel you want to get into games, you've got the right skills, I can, through experiential learning, bring you onto the program, and you can find yourselves earning a master's degree at no cost to you in that year. And this chap has done just that, and is about to get a publishing deal, we hope, for his games company. So, it doesn't have to be this set pattern of doing things. We look at the individual. Just go to that site, falmouth.launchpad.co.uk, hit the apply now button, ask us any question, we'll always answer it. Get yourself on the shortlist for September, and if not, then January, and we'd be more than happy to look at anybody's CV who wants to apply. You need to have the skills, so we'll look at the portfolio. You need to have the attitude, and you need to have the aptitude. We run a very tough program. It is no small thing, and Simon, you know this from what you've done in your beginnings. To set up a company ordinarily is very, very hard. To do a master's alongside that, to get investment in outside that year, to come together with people you may not know, that's going to test you. So you better be ready for it if we select you.
Yeah, it's like quite a challenge. It's like almost like going on The Apprentice or something like that,
Yeah, oh God, I think I might be an Alan Sugar of the games. This would be horrifying to me. I think we're a bit nicer than that. And we, the people that have sat with you because they've got those skills, aptitude, experience. I think The Apprentice, sometimes they bring people on deliberately for the entertainment purposes. We don't bring you in for our entertainment. You're brought in because you've got something special, and because we want to hone that skill and hone that talent and give you the opportunity to run this fantastic company, which you will own, and you'll have the major shareholding in. So yeah, it is exciting. I suppose there is an element of The Apprentice with it, but this is no television show. This is about real economic growth for the game sector, for Cornwall, for the UK, global companies, and a real opportunity for graduates who are going to otherwise struggle to be paid to run a game studio.
Yeah.
Man, if that opportunity was with us, 15, 20 years ago,
really.
Very different landscape, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity.
Yeah.
There are some obvious disciplines that we've touched on, programming, animation, art. What other skills do you look for? I mean, is it possible, like producers or managers or salespeople? Are they also thought?
Yes, they are. We need to make sure within a team of 4 that there's enough multidiscipline that team is able to produce what they need to produce. There's always a strong room for a salesperson. We know ourselves that pitch is still something that has to happen. If you want to make a game, you've often got to pitch it to one audience or another. That is a sales process. Pitching is a sales endeavor. And if you get that sell wrong, you can talk yourselves out of a deal quicker than anything. And good sales is about good communication. Often a discussion with a publisher can go awry because you're miscommunicating. They want this, they're not expressing it correctly, so you're misunderstanding, you're coming back with that, and you're not kind of fitting together in the way that you should do. So that is a sales process. So, and also, to get a good project plan together, you've got to know how to produce that. So yes, we will look at anybody who feels they're relevant. We just need to know that within a small team, that team can deliver a minimum viable prototype within that period of time. Something to show to the investors.
Yeah, is that the scenario where you might make it a team of 6 rather than a team of 4, because you've got these different ancillary skills that are clearly going to help with the development of the project?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a project come through this year that arguably, if we're going to do that again, we put more people to it. And so, for us, it's continually a process by which we understand how this works. We have to adjust it every year, but bit by bit, we get that right. But I think, a small team can accomplish a great deal, and often you can put too many people in as well, and you'll waste their time and talent. So I think, there are small teams, but if you had a full-time producer in that team, it would crack the team. What are they going to do? What are they going to do with all their time? They're certainly not going to be managing you every single day, so they're going to have to bring something else in that process, whether it's pitch, sales, business development, whatever. They won't be producing every single day. That isn't going to happen.
Yeah, thank you. So what advice can you give to applicants that want to become part of the incubator? How should they approach the interview and the process?
Okay, so assuming they apply, which is always the first step, then I think it's a case of, any interview, it's just like any interview. Sell yourself, understand what we're looking for, do your homework. What is the program looking to achieve? Who are you looking for? How are you going to play a part in that? Why should we take you over the 5-to-1 application ratio that we get? So if you're up against 4 or 5 others, why are we going to take you? What are you going to bring? What do you do differently? If you're just looking for a master's, I'm not interested. Okay, the master's is a value-added element. It's an essential wraparound to what we do. It's integral to part of what we offer. But I'm not just looking for people who are going to get a master's and then disappear at the end of the year. That doesn't work for me. I'm looking for someone who can be a part of building a high-growth company within the digital game sector. So what are you going to bring that's going to help do that? Do your research on us. Know what we're looking for, know what we offer, know how difficult that's going to be, and how you're going to handle that, how you're going to handle the pressure that brings, and bring your enthusiasm, bring your passion, bring your skill, and don't be shy of telling us what you're going to do. But also, be honest about the things. Who you're going to sit next to that's going to drive you crazy. How are you going to drive people crazy? What is the things about, we all work with people. I drive some of my teammates crazy. What is that? What is that thing about you, which, you have to balance and be careful? What are your weaknesses along with your strengths? What are the things you're not good at? The best thing we all learn as we go through life that is of value is the things we're not good at. It's good to understand within yourself what you're good at. I know what I'm good at, but I know what I'm bad at. Know what that is and be honest about it, so you can align with people who are good at that thing. That's how you get a strong team. What we're looking for above everything else is high-performing teams. And high-performing teams come in several packs. They form around a challenge. We provide the challenge. They also bring individual skills that complement the other teams. So that's what we look for. High performers.
Thank you very much. That was so insightful, and I'm really inspired about the program, and I'm sure that our audience will be equally as inspired. It's an amazing opportunity and a testament to what you've done down there, and to the all the support you get from the British government and from Europe as well. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's 12.7 million of European funding will enable hundreds of people to realize a career in games that just isn't privately funded. And yeah, I'm very fortunate. I've got a very good team of people here, very good staff team, but we have the advantage that we have an entire university to wrap around it. So finance, HR, Games Academy, film and television, all of those facilities are at their disposal on this amazing campus. Now, it's testament to the executive management of the university, and this is the vision of the Vice Chancellor. I think if that executive management had not had the vision to do this, we wouldn't be here doing this. So a lot of good vision backed up by necessary funding that is important to this country is able to give all these people opportunities. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what they develop. I know it'd be lovely to continue to chat with you, Simon, about this, and maybe you might have a challenge you want to put to a team here that you think might be a good challenge for a Launchpad team.
Well, that'd be really interesting. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about that. It'd be great.
We'll carry that on offline at some point. But I look forward to hopefully seeing some applications, and it's been a real pleasure to be part of this conference. I think it's very, very important we get together. It's a nice, different way of doing things, which is the nice millennial way of doing things, which I love. I look forward to seeing some of the other sessions coming through.
I'm so glad we can be able to supply the conference to all of you guys and your your students there too, and also your participants, and thank you very much for your support for us in this endeavor. Can I ask you another question?
Of course.
Are you playing any games yourself at the moment?
This is where I divide your audience down. Well, now here's the thing, right? So I've put about 156 hours so far into No Man's Sky since they released the last iteration, the Waking Titan iteration, and it's the only PS4 game I've ever got a platinum trophy on. And there's something about, it's quite stressful what we do here. It's a really nice way of relaxing that game. I just sit through and I kind of graft my way to farming the right materials and doing everything else. So I'm really enjoying that, and therefore I'm really looking forward to multiplayer coming in. I saw their trailer yesterday. I think they've done, it was an interesting opening for them, and a lot of people had problems. But those of us in development know how difficult it is to create anything procedural that looks in any way attractive. The fact they created that number of procedurally generated environments that looked that good is amazing. That's amazing. And I loved Elite. I worked on Elite for a while when I was working with David at Frontier. There was then Elite 4 before it became Elite Dangerous. And I know how hard it is to create a sci-fi environment of procedurally generated galaxies that looks that amazing. The fact they've now got multiplayer, full multiplayer, build bases any way you like within those environments, that I think is great. So I'm looking forward to that. So I've been playing a bit of that. I've been playing a bit of Sea of Thieves as well, because there's nothing wrong with being a cartoon pirate. That never gets dull, being a cartoon pirate. So I've been enjoying that as well. I think we're in a golden age. I mean, the amount of content that's put to us, the amount of wish fulfillment that comes through games. And I'm a world explorer. I love exploring worlds. So to be able to go into Assassin's Creed Origins, I mean, I've worked on open world games for. Man, when I looked at Assassin's Creed Origins and I played, I thought, my God, how did you get that environment onto a PS4? It was amazing, amazing. Now with the cloud and with procedurality and with artificial intelligence, we're in a golden age. So yeah, that's what I'm playing at the moment. So I'm going on leave beginning of August. So you can guess what I'm going to be doing with my time. I'm going to be in No Man's Sky, farming the crap out of it. So. Thank you to Sean Murray and to those guys. They've entertained me a lot, and I think they deserve a great deal of praise for what they've achieved. And the fact that they're rolling out for free for those who already own the game is magnificent, frankly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, it's a way. Yeah, it's a way. So thank you.
I'd love to be an undergraduate right now. I think it's a fabulous opportunity, great course. Thank you so much for your time.
Are you welcome? Come down and visit us. Cornwall's always welcome.
Will do. Lovely. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Simon. Thanks, everybody.